Macbeth. The main characters are Duncan, the King of Scotland; Macbeth, an ambitious general in the king's army; Banquo was another general; Fleance was the son of Banquo; Macduff was a nobleman; Lennox was a nobleman; Malcolm and Donalbain was, were the sons of King Duncan; Lady Macbeth, wife of Macbeth, the three witches who made the prophecies. Macbeth. So many centuries ago, when Scotland was ruled by the gentle King Duncan, there was rebellion against him led by a nobleman called the Thane of Cawdor. Several chieftains remained loyal to Duncan, and among the most outstanding of them was Macbeth, Thane of Glamis. Macbeth was a brave soldier and a natural leader of men, and so was held in high honor by the king, the nobles, and the people of Scotland. So many centuries ago, there was a country named Scotland, and it was ruled by the King Duncan. He was gentle, he was loyal, he cared for his people. So there was a rebellion against him by a nobleman. The nobleman was Thane of Cawdor. So several chieftains remained loyal to Duncan, and but the most outstanding of them was Macbeth. So Macbeth was the most loyal person, nobleman to Duncan. He was the Thane of Glamis. So Macbeth was a brave soldier, a natural leader of men, and he was held in high honor by the king, the nobles, and the people of Scotland. When Cawdor rose against the king, Duncan sent for Macbeth and commanded him to put the rebels down. Macbeth conducted himself with his usual courage and valor and defeated Cawdor, who was taken prisoner and condemned to death. So when there was rebellion, when Thane of Cawdor rose against the king, Duncan, so Duncan sent for Macbeth and he commanded him to put the rebellion down. So Macbeth went and, with his usual courage. He was very courageous. He was a brave soldier. He defeated Cawdor, and then Cawdor was taken as prisoner, and he was condemned to death. He died. So Macbeth was returning from the field of battle with a fellow commander named Banquo. So Macbeth was returning from the battle with his a fellow commander named Banquo. Banquo was also a nobleman. We had read the characters. A strange thing happened. They were crossing a wild and desolate heath when suddenly there sprang up in front of them three of the most frightening creatures the generals had ever seen. So when they were crossing the wild and desolate forest, heath means forest or so when they were crossing the wild and desolate heath, uh, three of the most frightening creatures, three witches, came in front of them suddenly, and the generals had never seen a person or thing like that. Three witches. So Macbeth, known for his courage, challenged them. "Who are you?" he cried. "You look like women, but you have beards. Tell us plainly who are you and what you want of us." So Macbeth was known for his courage. He was very courageous and he challenged them that, "Who are you?" He cried. He asked them, "Who are you? You look like women, but you have beards." So you can underline this line, as this can be asked in exam, that what was the experience, what was the appearance of the witches? "You look like women, but you have beards." So the three witches looked like women, but they had beards. So Macbeth then asked them, "Tell us plainly who are you?" So he told them to tell them Macbeth and Banquo to tell them who are they. The witches, for that is what the three creatures were, did not reply directly. Instead, first of them cried, "All hail Macbeth, Lord of Glamis." As Macbeth was Thane of Glamis, this was perhaps not so extraordinary, except that they had recognized him. But the second witch then proceeded to cry out, "All hail Macbeth, Lord of Cawdor." Though the original Thane of Cawdor has been defeated and condemned to death, his title has not passed to anyone else. So both Macbeth and Banquo were naturally very surprised. So the first witch then cried. So when Macbeth asked them who are they did not reply. But then the first witch cried that, "All hail Macbeth, Lord of Glamis. So Macbeth was the Thane of Glamis, so it was normal that they can call him the Lord of Glamis. But then they called him the Lord of Cawdor. As the Thane of Ford has been defeated, but the title has not passed. No one is the Thane of, no one is the Lord of Cawdor till now. So they felt strange. Macbeth and Banquo felt strange that why are the witches calling Macbeth as the Lord of Cawdor? So they were surprised. Then the next page, page number 25. They were even more startled when the third witch, following her weird sister, cried, "All hail Macbeth, who will be the King of Scotland." So this was very surprising, very astonishing as they cried, "All hail Macbeth, who will be the King of Scotland." So the second witch cried this. This was very surprising as the King of Scotland was alive. Duncan was the King of Scotland. So how they said as Macbeth who will be the King of Scotland. So far they had addressed Macbeth only, but when Banquo challenged them to speak about him, the first said, "All hail Banquo, who are lesser than Macbeth but greater." So till this point they had addressed Macbeth only, they told about Macbeth only. Then Banquo challenged them to speak about Banquo. So the first witch said, "All hail Banquo, who are lesser than Macbeth but greater." So they said that all hail Banquo, who will be lesser than Macbeth but greater. That means uh, he will be lesser than Macbeth, but he will be happy. And and as if that were not puzzling enough, the second said, "You are not as happy as Macbeth, but you will be happier." And the third cried, "You will be not the king, but your descendants will be the king of Scotland." So the second witch then cried that you will be not as happy as Macbeth, but you will be happier. And third cried, "You will be the not king, but your descendants will be the kings of Scotland." So Banquo will not be the king, but his sons, grandsons, great grandsons will be the kings of Scotland. So now Macbeth was now full of curiosity, tried to detain them, but the three weird sisters disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared. Both noblemen were amazed, and had just begun to discuss the strange experience when a group of noblemen rode up to them and said, "The king has sent you his congratulations, and in token of his appreciation, he has stripped the Thane of Cawdor of his title and granted it to Macbeth." So Macbeth was now full of curiosity. He tried to search for them as because they had suddenly disappeared. So he was full of curiosity. He was thinking of that, but both Banquo and Macbeth were surprised. But a group of noblemen rode up to them. They rode up in their horses and said to Macbeth that the king has sent you his congratulations. The king has congratulated Macbeth for his victory, and for this act, he has stripped the uh, Thane of Cawdor of his title. So he has made Macbeth as the Thane of Cawdor. So then here was more reason for amazement. The first of the witches' prophecies has already come true. Macbeth now wondered if the other and bigger prophecy that he would be the king of Scotland would also come true. So here was the reason of amazement as the witches has predicted that Macbeth will be the king of Cawdor, Thane of Cawdor. So the first prophecy came true. Prophecies means predictions, foretelling future. So it came true. So Macbeth was wondering now if the other and bigger prophecy means other and bigger prediction, which was he will be the king of Scotland, would also come true. So Macbeth was deep in thought and turned to Banquo. He said, "You have the future in your hand, for they said your descendants will be the kings of Scotland." He said this so that Banquo should not feel left out, and also to divert his attention from thoughts of kingship which had been kindled in his breast. So Macbeth was deep in thought. Then he turned to Banquo and said that you will be the future. You have the future in your hands, as the witches had made the prophecies that the descendants of Banquo will be the will be the kings of Scotland. So he should not feel left out. He should not feel alone that only Macbeth has uh, become the Thane of Cawdor. So he told Banquo that he should not feel left out, and he, and also to divert attention from thoughts of kingship. So Macbeth was wondering in his mind that he would be the king. So it was a impact on his mind that he would be the kingship. And the witches told him as the king. So Battencourt did not seem to think along the same lines, for he said firmly, I do not believe these creatures. I feel their evil, and, the, and that the purpose is to tempt us to do evil. It is dangerous for you to believe in instruments of evil. But Macbeth was ambitious and already imagined himself the king. Why indeed should he not be the king? He was a close cousin of Duncan. He, he was the most understanding and popular of the nobles of Duncan's court. He was young and strong while Duncan was weak and old. Scotland needed a strong ruler. In short, the witches had done their work well, for Macbeth was already a prisoner of their prophecies. So Banquo was not thinking about these lines. He was very casual that these are weird creatures. They should not believe in these creatures. They are evil. They are tempting us to do evil. They are telling him to do evil. So, but Macbeth was ambitious. So he already imagined himself the king. So he was a close cousin of Duncan. He was the most outstanding and popular of the nobles of Duncan's court. He was young and strong, and but Duncan was weak and old. Scotland needed a strong ruler. In short, the witches had done their work well, for Macbeth was already a prisoner of their prophecies. The king wished especially to honor Macbeth for his services in putting down the rebellion, and as was the custom of those times, he decided to visit Macbeth's castle. When he heard of the king's decision, Macbeth said that he would go in advance and prepare his wife for the king's reception. So the king was very happy with Macbeth because he had put the rebels down. He has killed the Thane of Cawdor. So the king decided to visit Macbeth's castle. So when Macbeth heard of the king's decision, he thought of going in advance and preparing his wife, the Lady Macbeth, for the king's reception, for the king's arrival, for his hospitality. So before leaving, he wrote a letter to Lady Macbeth telling her of the witch's prophecies. Shortly before Macbeth left, King Duncan proclaimed his elder son Malcolm as the Prince of Cumberland. This meant that when the king died in the ordinary course, Malcolm would succeed him. Macbeth, ambitious for the throne, felt uneasy but said nothing in the letter to his wife. So before leaving, he wrote a letter to his wife, Lady Macbeth, telling her what the witches had predicted. So shortly before Macbeth left, uh, King Duncan proclaimed his elder son. So the King Duncan announced that when he died in ordinary course in his normal way, because he was old, so when he would die in his ordinary course in the normal way, his son Malcolm, elder son Malcolm, would succeed him, would become the king next to him. So when Macbeth heard of this, he felt uneasy. He felt uncomfortable that the witches had predicted him, but the king has announced this. So, but he told nothing. He wrote nothing in the letter to his wife. The Lady Macbeth's plan. This we'll study in the next video.